spooky friends. Woo! That's different for me from this side of the pond.
Yeah, the
computer.
Yeah, it's nice to see someone else saying it for a
I
change.
know.
So if you're new to the podcast, this is the Hey Spooky Friends podcast, and we have many spooky friends. We now have, I'm Catherine, as you know, the Empress of Mystery, and we have Grace with us from Scareberia.
Woo! And I know, guys follow me on TikTok. I'm known as that spooky teacher because everybody knows me as that spooky teacher. I'm always the teacher that every student's like, Miss Hope, every time I see something about Halloween, I think of you. I'm like, so all my students know that I love Halloween, so that's why that's spooky teacher.
And I'm at Catherine the Great on TikTok for those who don't already know who I am. And people at work have discovered recently that I'm not only spooky, but I'm the Empress of Pumpkin Spice.
Oh, this is true. This is true.
So this is actually my home that we're shooting in, and I like to say that this is just Halloween decorations, but other than the pumpkins, this stays around all year round.
It is. I can honestly say it is.
That's pretty funny.
It is. And then it's funny you say that because on the weekend, I know you couldn't come to my little Hocus Pocus evening night, but my friends all know that, and one of my friends who've never been to my basement hanging out, she's like, turned around, she's like, is this for Halloween? And my other girlfriend turned around and goes, no, this is her all year round. Like, because I am, like, we're the same way. Like, we have our designated area, and I like my spooky stuff around the house. Like, I have little ghosts everywhere. I have a little, the little homage to the ghosts, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I have like Frankenstein and the Bride of Frankenstein. I've got Raven from Edgar Allan Poe. I've got Edgar Allan Poe's books, and behind us, well, that's a Halloween mask. That's my boyfriend's Halloween mask that he likes to wear when he's drumming. We're trying to get him on TikTok.
Drumming.
But yes, we're both spooky. We don't always dress spooky. Like, I'm in a dress shirt, but I think that we don't walk the walk in that way, but we walk the walk when it comes to doing things that are spooky, i.e. being in haunted places and visiting places specifically because they are haunted.
Or being friends who are haunted all the time.
So, you're pointing at me and I'm pointing at you.
I know.
Who's the more haunted one?
I think we both have. And okay, so we should also tell people. So for those, I had a podcast before, Scareberia, and unfortunately my awesome friend, my sidekick, had a baby. So yay, hello Beth, and my little munchkin spooky one there too. But anyhow, so how Catherine, how you and I got together is that many people want to know is that, how do we come together? Like, just like our two podcasts and friends and how to become spooky friends.
Yeah.
See, it come together.
Yes.
Full circle. So so would you like to tell how we became friends?
Yeah, I mean, so we have...
It's like a Tinder match.
It's a Tinder match. We have an online...
Spooky match.
A spook match. I actually thought about doing that, like a dating app for spooky people, but it fell through. But so I started on TikTok about 3 years ago during the pandemic. Mostly I really raised it up, and I started the Spooky Friends Club, and it was just a joke. We're a cult, but we're all easily led. And you were part of that. You definitely...
I started following you because it's like Catherine, and you started covering all the spooky places. I'm like, whoa, like this girl's talking spooky places. And I have to say that it's hard to find like-minded spooky friends. Yeah.
So I remember specifically, we were talking on Instagram. You had reached out to me on Instagram, or I had reached out to you. I can't remember who.
I think I reached out because you did a TikTok saying that you got locked into
in
Mount Pleasant Cemetery. And I said, oh my God, you're in Toronto. And she had said, and that's how it started.
Yeah. We've been together ever since.
I know.
And it was funny because I really hadn't met anyone from the internet aside from Tinder dating, which was not fun. But we had decided you were going to take me to the Necropolis graveyard.
I know how to treat a girl and take her on a first date.
Never met each other.
Nope.
And it was like, hey, do you want to go do this? And I was like, okay, because you couldn't meet anyone. You couldn't be face to face. But out in a cemetery, it was awesome.
Yeah.
So we went there and we did a spooky investigation. We met George A. Romero in his grave.
Yep. And we met Lily.
Yeah, Lily Hunt.
That was our first get together and our first paranormal investigation together. And it was memorable because it was pretty active, and we actually did get some good evidence there.
And it's actually on the YouTube channel, which is going to be renamed right now to The Spooky Friends Club. Right now it's Hey Spooky Friends Podcast. Yeah. But The Spooky Friends Club, the entire story of Lily, what we learned about her, what happened on the hunt. And I say hunt very softly because we're not really kick the door down, rip your shirt off, and try to fight the ghost.
No, we're not Zach Bobo Bagans, as I like to call him.
I was throwing shade.
I'll always throw shade at Zach Bagans. There's like other podcasts I love to listen to that call him Zach Bagel Bites. I like calling Bobo Bagans, Zach Bobo Bagans, personally. Like, we are not confrontational. I come from experience of like doing investigation 20 years now. I've been doing paranormal investigation for 20 years. Wow. And so with my experience, I've never gone into a place. I've always gone to a place with legit, true love and light and, respect. And if we know somewhere, like, we don't antagonize, we do not mock, we don't do anything like that, It's just like, I'm a teacher, so it's like the same approach. Like, you go in gentle hands and you go the gentle approach, or like, and let them come to you. And I find like, if you kind of back off a bit and you just let them know you're there, they will come to you.
We focus more on the story. Like,
we do.
Why are they there? What can we do to help? What story can we tell? And I find that then it becomes less scary, which, some viewers really want it to be scary, and it accidentally does become scary sometimes. I'm talking about the Stanley Barracks specifically. But we really want to know, like, why are they there? What story, what message do they want out in the world?
And if these stories are actually true, like if a lot of these places are haunted. And that's the thing, like you and I think that's how you and I became, friends, is that we also respect and know the history of these places. If we don't know, we do the research. And that's like my old podcast, like Scareberia, where we looked into historical haunted places in Canada, because Beth and I are both historical nerds and we love the history of a lot of these places. So I'm a big research, hence why I'm a teacher, because I am a big nerd that way. I love to do research on places, especially if it's historical places. And my husband knows when we go places, any visit place around the world, I will do the research place and I will find if it's haunted or not.
Yeah.
So
travel by haunting.
Yep. And so, and that's where I think you and I, we have that commonality where you and I both, we enjoy the we enjoy the spooky part, but we also respect and we try to bring in the element of truth. And a lot of those places you and I try to go to also debunk, because a lot of places I like urban legends, but do I believe in them? No. They're just, they're stories to me.
Yeah, and I feel like there's some places where we fully expect to see like full-fledged spookies, and then it doesn't happen. Like the Thorold Tunnels. Are those the Screaming Tunnel? The Blue Tunnel.
The Blue Tunnel.
Meriton.
Yeah.
It was spooky. I felt presence there, but it wasn't like smash you in the face.
No, and that's funny because the year before when I was there, we did get some like crazy, and again, we also believe in like there's two theories and the two schools of paranormal. There is a residual and then there's intelligent, right? And I always explain this to people. Residual is like a record player that's replaying that same.
Not dangerous.
No. It's like it's legit a record player being stuck playing on loop, just the same sounds, children laughing. Like, it's not intelligent. So it's not able to communicate with you. But then you have intelligent where you actually get like scratches. That's when you get knocks. Full body apparitions,
things being thrown,
which have. So those are the intelligent type of spirits. So that's what I try to explain to people. Like, there's two theories and two schools of paranormal. And I know, and again, and I also laugh at people's like, oh, I'm a paranormal like expert.
We had this conversation and I was laughing so hard, and I thought this was literally when we decided to do a podcast. Grace is making the most hilarious face, by the way. If you watch us on YouTube, you can actually see her. That intelligent versus non-intelligent and this, some people just don't really get it.
Yeah.
And not all hauntings are smack in the face spooky.
No. And it's funny, even I've talked to people who are staunch non-believers. Like, I don't believe in paranormal, but this one time happened to me. I'm like, dude, that just like totally went against your own belief. Like, and that's the thing, like, and again, it's like the whole, like, that people say, like, paranormal experts. It's hard to be an expert on an area that has not been fully understood. Like, you have the parapsychology of it, right? Mm-hmm. That's more of a psychological thing, but that's still quote unquote, it's like, hocus, like, like that's like a bunch of gibberish kind of like, or like, what's that term they use? Like, what's his name? Randy the Great actually used, just like riff-raff kind of thing. Like, it's not really true. Like, parapsychology is an interesting concept. Now, people are going to against me, and I know people are going to at me, but I truly believe it's one of those things you can't research it. You need to go out and do it.
It's experiential.
It is experiential.
You can't possibly feel the same things I feel. Like, one time, for instance, I'm looking down the hallway here, in my haunted apartment, which we'll tell a story one day. But my boyfriend was sitting here on this couch, and I was over there, and he said that he didn't believe that there was a spirit in this house. Now, he's not believer. He's just really skeptical. And he said, okay, fine, if there's a spirit in here, prove it. And as he said that whole closet was open. Yeah. As it is now. It's where we keep our jackets and things. An umbrella that was inside of a box, it was an open box, came flying out and smacked the other side of the wall, which is 4 feet. And then he looked at me and he's like, tell the ghost I'm sorry.
Yeah. But also your boyfriend is very religious and spiritual that way. Mm-hmm. And so I think a lot of people contradicting, because I grew up Catholic, and the Catholic in which I laugh, like, oh, there's no such a thing as spirit. I'm like, okay, but you want me to pray to a sky god daddy, and you want me to believe in that the Holy Spirit and everything, like, it's in the name Holy Spirit, right? So there's different, there's different schools into people believe, right? And I grew up in a household where, I'm European, both of my parents are from Spain, and like, as you guys know, Spain is like historically, like in terms like being a lot of cool haunted places in Spain too. Like, it's very rich in culture. And it's funny because like my family, like, there's like, they believe in like this, not superstitious, but like paranormal like thing. Like my grandmother, my aunts, like, and my great aunts and my great grandmother were herbal witches. Like, that's basically like, they don't want to say they were like known as, the medicine women, but that's what it comes to. Like, and I learned that, down the road, like, no, my cousins don't make, no, our, ancestors were basically, like, they're called brujas in Spanish, and like, we're basically like Spanish, like, witches, and like, and especially a part of Spain where we're from, we're known for witches, and Galicia, like, that is the area known for being witches and has witches everywhere. So, so like, and that's why I'm like, my parents don't poo-poo it. Like, my mom believes in this stuff, and she's like, oh yeah, like, and even like my dad, like, I've had experiences happen to me, and like I said, my husband, who's a staunch, like, non-believer, like, he does not believe in this stuff at all. He makes fun of me for doing this stuff, and he laughs every time we see the shows and people pull out their equipment, because like, well, there's Grace and her friends, with my equipment, because he knows but we've had experiences, and I turn around, I'm like, I'd explain that.
Yeah, explain it away.
Explain it away.
And it's okay if people don't believe, in my
opinion. Absolutely.
We need people to, like, not believe, to make our job harder, to make us think more. Like, it originally started that way with my boyfriend, and I was questioning everything. I'm like, did I see that? Am I feeling that? I mean, I have a long history with ghosts since I was like 2, seeing them. But then the other day, he admitted to me that he had experiences as a child and had to have some sort of like religious cleansing.
Huh.
And it's a big deal in his culture. Mm-hmm. Him coming from Venezuela, that, people can get possessed.
Yes.
And my neighbor across the hall, Junior, he's going to come on the podcast one day and tell his story of how he was possessed. So, and that's from the Philippines.
Yes, and they have a big culture that believe too, yeah.
So, and we were watching a documentary the other day in Africa, in Ghana. People purposefully become possessed to fight for their villages. So, it's not to say that everyone should believe. Everyone has their own belief. There is no way to be an expert, but everyone has their own way of approaching it.
And also, too, it's also being respectful to other person. Like, who am I to say something's not real if I'm not experiencing it? Like I said, like, and that's what people are like, well, like, explain it away. I'm like, and we're like, okay, prove it. I'm like, how can I prove something if you're not going to believe in something, right? And like I said, I like to believe I'm a healthy skeptic. Mm-hmm. I'm one of those people, I have to experience it to believe it, right?
Yep.
Now, am I saying that's not real? Absolutely not. Hence, that's why I'm here. I have this morbid curiosity of the paranormal. I've always had, same as you, as a child.
Yep.
I have been hearing them since as a child more than seeing them. So I have like, I guess you want to be audio sentient, like, you know, and a clairsentient kind of feeling to it. But I've had experiences where I'm like, okay, how do you explain that? Right. And again, I don't believe in the whole like, I'm an expert. And I was like, it's still a fairly new field and fairly new, like not paranormal. It's been around for eons, you know, like since the dawn of day. You know, civilizations have been praying to different entities and they believe in all this stuff. So that I respect. But especially in the day and age, there's so much technology. That's what like I like about it. Is like we have this technology now to try to have a better understanding in communication. I think for me, it's like, again, it's hard to be an expert that's still not quantifiable. Do you know what I mean? That's not like, you know, history where like we're learning from the past and we can say, yes, you go to school to become, you know, you get your thesis and your master's in, you know, history. But it's hard to do that like in something like parapsychology where it's something that's still not tangible. We're still learning a lot. There's still so much to know. And now like with technology, especially like NED people are having like near-death experiences, like we're having a better understanding of that.
And we're sharing it more.
We're sharing it more. And I think there's platforms like this, right? People are open to it. And I think that's the whole point. I think once people are open to it, I think people are going to have like, and like you said, like people who say like, I don't believe in the paranormal, but this happened to me or this happened, like, you feel comfortable enough.
And the thing is too, like, yes, it's not quantifiable, but also there's been no structure to quantify it. And also I think that has to lean on the Catholic and, you know, other culture disbelief.
Absolutely.
I had this, I visit my therapist, and my therapist and I had this conversation about deprogramming of the Catholicism and accepting the spiritualism. You know, we have these practices with her and I developing my spirituality because I didn't quite fit in with the Catholic side. I felt a lot of guilt there. Didn't quite fit in with the Mormon church that I went to for a bit. That's a story for another day. But where do I sit now? And I really genuinely believe that there's another side. And my grandmother was the one to prove that to me when she passed. We had an agreement. It was a pact that she would show me, and she did. She came to me when I was sleeping and tucked me in, and it was our secret thing that we said we were going to do if one of us died. And she said she was going first or she was going to kill me. Yeah, she was funny like that. So, you know, you develop this, and I think everyone can wear it like underwear. You know, it's individual to you, whatever works for you. It can change. You know, 1 week you can wear a thong, the next a boy
like
short.
Me Undie. We're not sponsored yet, but I know.
I'd love to be sponsored
Me
by an
Undies,
underwear
come
brand. But yeah, I think that it needs to be respected, and I think the spirits need to be respected. And going back to Zach Bagans, we don't need to kick down doors to, you know, with this bravado with spirits. And I think the reason he's done it is his producers, just to throw them under the bus. I think he's been kind of coerced into being this way, but that's not our style.
Yeah.
Our style is find the story, do the research after you've been there, and then go back for more.
Yeah. So you can do, you know, you can have an understanding of where you're going to. Go for an unbiased experience, and then walk away with what you walk away with. And again, sometimes when you go into some places, it can be super active, and other times it won't be active. Like, for example, my friend Johnny and I, who also was a guest with my old podcast, Scareberia. And if you guys want to go back and listen to that, we've talked about this, where him and I went to places like, for example, it was not Dundurn Castle, it's the Hermitage Ruins. And him and I have been there many times. And we've been there every time, like morning or like you know, afternoon, evening, late at night, spring, summer, winter, even the time we went in the winter. So one time him and I went, and the whole forest was active. But it was so eerily active that every animal was on alert. And just like, and him and I got halfway through, I'm like, something's telling us not to go in there right now. And we turned around and we left.
Do you know what messes me up about that? So I was in Hamilton last week. I had my boyfriend with me and my friend who owns Mooncraft Market on James Street in Hamilton. Shout out to Andriana. I always mispronounce her name, but hey babes, I love you. The three of us went, and we'd gone to Oakmar Mansion, which I didn't find haunted, but I took a creepy picture. It's on my Instagram. Spooky Friends Club on Instagram. But we went to Hermitage Ruins at night. It was closed, but we were able to get through the fence. Like, it opened for us, so we went in. We walked about 10 feet into the forest, and all three of us were like, no, and my flashlight wouldn't work.
Yeah.
Brand new flashlight.
Telling you,
The three of us were, and it was like you were walking into like a black wall.
Exactly. And it's like this feeling.
And the moon was out.
Exactly. And it's just like, you get this foreboding feeling. Like I said, my friend John and I turned, and like, we've been there many times. Mm-hmm. And him and I both said, no, there's something telling us not to go today.
What is so scary about it?
Okay.
I never got that.
So, if you go back to my old podcast, Scareberia, we actually did talk about, it was one of the first like few episodes. It was one of, I did cover it, but the Hermitage Ruin. So it's got like a rich history. There used to be a house. A gentleman did kill himself there. There's a couple of deaths that did happen there. A lot of tragedy and a lot of stories.
A guy hung from a tree. Is that
the tree? Yeah, and that's the guy because he was not of higher social status, and the girl that he wanted to marry. And anyhow, just it's one of those sad stories. But anyhow, it just so of one time, my friend Beth and again John and another friend of ours, we went, and we went. It was around dusk, because in the summertime, so it was like close to 9 o'clock, and when the sky is starting to get dark, and it was filled with fireflies. It was just such a magical night. We're sitting there, but before we're walking through the path.
Sorry,
what was that?
I don't know. It's still recording. I don't know if anyone heard that. The tripod just went like scuttle scuttle on its own.
That is so weird, and it's totally flat.
Yeah, no, that's been.
What was that?
There. I have no idea.
Okay.
Welcome to my haunted home.
And cue. And we're not paid actor here. Anyhow, that was weird.
Yeah.
That was weird timing. So anywho, as I'm talking about a paranormal experience, this actually happens.
Yeah.
So we got to, we walked through, and it takes a good like 10-minute walk to get to Hermitage Ruins from the parking lot. And again, it's beautiful. You have to go through the, like through this path, go through the forest. It's absolutely beautiful. I've done it many times. I can almost do it with my eyes closed. We get there, and this is Beth's first time going. As we get there, Beth is reading the plaque, the history of it, right? Mm-hmm. So her back is turned towards me, and there's there's two plaques, and there's a tree there, and we're having a conversation. We're talking to each other, like just say, for example, you and I are like, she's having the conversation, and her back is faced towards the Hermitage Ruins. And as she's having a conversation, I see a black shadow go like this. I kind of sat there. She looked at me. She's like, if you saw something, don't say anything, because she gets freaked out by this at all. I said, like, no, I didn't see anything. And I looked at my friend John, and John's like, did you see something? I said, yes. And I kind of sat there and I told him, like, that was like a full figure, black shadow, like pure, like black, like black, like this. And I kind of sat there, like this hat, whatever. I saw it walk, and I kind of sat there. I'm like, oh, okay, nothing of it. So we're sitting there. We go in. We're sitting down, enjoying it. It's like a beautiful summer night. We're just hanging out, and there's some cyclists going around. And then as we're sitting there, we hear like people talking, because you're not really supposed to be there at night because they close the park down. So you're not technically supposed to be there at night. Yeah. But you can, like, they just like, you don't get in trouble. You just like kind of shoo off. So we're sitting there. I'm like, oh crap, they're gonna come kick us out because it's like 10 o'clock at night now, and we're just hanging out and again, talking, whatever, just enjoying the evening. And we're still hearing the talk. I'm like, oh crap, I wonder what that is. Who's that flash? I'm like, oh crap, I guess we should get walking. And we're leaving, and we see these two guys. They're setting up their tripod. They're setting up their camera, whatever. We found out they're paranormal investigators from Hampton, right?
Oh, wow.
So we start chit-chatting, and they start talking about the history. They grew up there, and they talk about all the crazy experiences. Like, yeah, I just, I had a crazy experience today, too. He's like, let me guess, a shadow figure? I said, yeah. He's like, yeah, that is well-known, documented. He's like, I've caught it here. A couple of people, because that's what we're here tonight, because we're trying to catch that shadow figure. I said, well, I caught it. And like, I saw it with my own eyes. And he's like, yep. And so to have that validation too, makes a huge difference. So
usually does. I mean, I didn't get a chance to see the Hermitage Ruins, but
I'm going to take you. We're going to go. We have to do, like, especially now in the fall, we'll definitely go in the evening.
Well, like, and I do this thing with my camera, this camera that you have here, and I do a rapid shutter. Mm-hmm. I've caught on Old Finch Road, I caught a figure, and it had to be, like, tall. Yeah. It was tall. And then I caught the freaking at Oakmar Mansion where nuns had lived. And I don't do nuns. I'm so terrified of spooky nuns. But
I went to school with nuns, so I know what you're talking about.
This picture where it's turned and it's looking at you, and it's got its hand on the habit, the little hood.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I have this knack for catching. Remember the one? Okay, there's another one on my Instagram, and it's buried. I'm gonna repost it because it's so spooky. Do you remember when I was in Mount Hope Cemetery, which is notoriously haunted here in Toronto?
Chris's family's buried there.
I snapped what looks like a soldier figure walking along. But I don't take pictures of people if I can help it. If there's people there, I don't snap the photo because I don't want to show people. I only want to show landscapes.
Yeah.
So that picture sent chills down my spine. And I've caught a nun in that cemetery too, on camera. I will post them both on my Instagram.
Listen, I went to school with the nuns in high school, so when they're alive, they're scary.
Yeah. In death, they're even more terrifying.
But yeah.
But the Hermitage has like a feel.
It has a feel. It's truly haunted. It's been featured on Creepy Canada. It's been featured in so many other podcasts and books. A friend of mine, gentleman who I know, became friends, Peter Sacco. Hi, Peter. He's actually does a books on, and he does a lot of the urban legends and the folk stories and of Niagara, and he does all that stuff. So he's got a couple books out, and he's really cool. Like, and he and I talk about, he's the same thing. Like, his background is psychology and everything, but he believes in the paranormal because he's like me. He is a healthy skeptic. Like, he's had some experiences where like, okay, I can't explain that away. I cannot explain that away. And that's the thing. Like, for example, so I'm going to share a really crazy story so a couple years ago was my mom's birthday. And this is what I explain about where you cannot explain things. And even my husband, who's a non-believer, scratches his head about this. So, my mom's birthday, anyhow, so it is almost coming to the 20 years since her best friend's death. Anyhow, right? So my mom went into the kitchen, as she always does every morning, and she has her checkbook, so she's going to sit with her, pay the bills, and she's sitting there, and she saw something from the corner of her eye. Now, my parents, my parents have a cabinet like this in their counter. And so my mom says she saw something sticking up from the counter. So she's like, that's odd. So she ran, grabbed trees, and she pulled it out, whatever the sticking was, out of the corner. It's like it's a little piece of paper. She pulled it out. It was a card that her best friend, who died 20 years ago, gave to my mom for her birthday.
Oh, that's spooky.
No. But the best thing is, my parents totally gutted their kitchen 10 years before this. So my parents did like a full reno job. New counters, new everything. Where was that card? They literally had to rip out, they got new counters. It's not like they painted the counter. They got new counters. They got new backsplash.
That's spooky.
They found this card 20 years after my mom's sister passed away, and it basically said that she knew she was dying and this was going to be her last birthday with my mom. It was a very ominous, and it was on my mom's birthday. It was on my mom's birthday, and so I tell my husband, like, how do you explain that? He's like, that is freaky. I'm like, yeah, you cannot explain that away. How does a card 20 effing years later show up out of nowhere? In the can, like that, it's been a house that's been renovated, like a kitchen that's been renovated. That's what I mean. Like, how do you explain that way?
You can't.
You can't explain it.
You can't be an expert in it.
Like, you can't. Like, you know, like, and I think it's even my husband's like, but their kitchen got gutted. I'm like, yes. Like, he knows.
And,
like,
is he still sitting there saying this doesn't exist?
He believes that some weird things do happen. I don't think I think he's actually more intuitive than he wants to. And I think people who are truly intuitive deny it a lot. And they try to push it away, and they try to say it's not real because they don't want to face the reality themselves.
Yeah, they're scared.
They're scared.
Yep, that's exactly it. So we're gonna wrap up, but before we go,
yes.
2 things. Everyone who's listening right now, please put in the comment section if you have a scary story or if you believe in the spirits. We'd like to hear from you because we thrive on your approval. So please comment, like, share if you want. If you want to share this with friends. Thank you to everyone who's always tagging me on TikTok with these spooky stuff. Like, shout out to James Morton, who's been tagging me in some really scary, amazing videos on TikTok that I've been really enjoying.
And also, too, if you guys want to find me at That Spooky Teacher, I'm always taking in stories, too, of if you have a child or a little brother or sister that says some crazy things. Like, I've had some students tell me some crazy stuff. Please share them with me find me at That Spooky Teacher, because I love to hear the stories, because again, I'm the historical nerd too as well. So we like to get to the bottom stuff.
We can even share them here on the podcast or have you on the podcast.
Yes. And share your stories with us. Like, honestly, because like, that's the thing, like, my old podcast where, I covered stories. So that's what we're going to be doing now. Is like, I'll be covering some spooky haunted places in Canada.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's our bread and butter, but we can explore other places as well.
Absolutely.
And so put them in the comments. And I think before we go, Grace, what we can tell the story for next time, but what's the scariest place you've been?
I can honestly, I think the scariest place I've been to was Iron Island in Buffalo, New York, where I've had a true experience where it still chills me to this day. Yeah.
For me, I'm trying to think. I think the Stanley Barracks was pretty scary. That place got me pretty good. I think that was probably the scariest place I've been, but the feeling at the Hermitage was pretty awful.
But I gotta say, I think the one place that really effed you and I up was the Carl Beck House.
It didn't F me up as bad, I don't think.
No, that place fucked me up. Excuse my French, but...
Well, I couldn't sleep.
But I was physically sick.
Yeah, we did get sick.
Physically sick.
Yeah,
physically sick. I've never gotten physically sick from a place, so...
Yeah, you did upchuck, so...
Yeah. So that was not fun, but...
That was interesting. Well, welcome back to the Spooky Friends Club.
I'm so excited to be back. Grace. I know, I'm so excited to be on here, guys. Like, honestly, like, it is a passion. You guys have to realize, too, like, this is a passion for us. We're not getting paid for this. We're doing this out of our own loving, small, spooky hearts.
Sponsors are up there.
If there's sponsors, honestly, like, we're two Canadian girls that love doing this stuff, so, and we do love this stuff. Like, that's why we're doing this.
Great. So we will hear you in the comment section. We want to hear from you, and we will join you guys in the next one.
Yes.
And Grace, at the end, we say, stay spooky. Great job.